Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology, and you're listening to my September horoscopes. This is the horoscope for Capricorn. So, for those of you who are new to my video blogs or my horoscope videos, this is actually the first month that I'm doing them after a long time of writing them. So, in the past year, I started the YouTube channel to try and expand beyond written content, and that was a big change that I made back in December, January of 2017 into 2018. So usually I'm in my office. Right now I'm on vacation, so things look a little bit different. But if you want to check out the written version of my horoscopes, you can go to astrograph.com. So on astrograph.com, every month, if you click on the horoscopes section of the website, you will find that there are a series of glyphs at the top of the page. And if you click on your glyph, say Capricorn, it will take you to a page where you can find a monthly overview written by the Astrograph founder and owner, Henry Seltzer. I recommend checking out his newsletters too. They're really great. And then below it, you'll see the guest columnist, which is me, and the write-up for the entire month that you're hearing on this video. So you got kind of some few options of ways that you can approach my horoscopes every month. I also want to take a moment to plug Astrograph's software, Time Passages. Really cool software program. There's a variety of different editions from very basic to very advanced. It's very cost-friendly and budget-friendly, and there's an app for the phone and stuff like that. This is one of two programs that I've used for a long time, and so feel like I should give them a shout since they are a cool group of people and great software. Okay, so with that being said, let's take a look at the horoscopes for the month. The horoscope for the month of September here. So the month gets started. I'm going to actually annotate for you so you can see some of these. I'll try to draw them out. But the month gets started around September 3rd. On September 3rd, Mercury and Venus are getting together in a sextile relationship to one another. So you'll see the two of them connecting just like that. Mercury in your 8th house and Venus in your 10th house. The 8th house and 10th house I'll talk about in a moment, but for now what's important to emphasize is the fact that this is a transit that indicates communication and relationships. So Mercury, Hermes, the god of communication and the mind and the intellect, writing, thinking, speaking, the rational mind. And then Venus is the goddess of love and harmony and beauty. And so it's a great time for finding compromise, for making deals, or getting things worked out in a business arrangement, or finding some sense of flow or harmony in your relationships. You might be able to talk about some heavier or deeper subject matters with Mercury in the 8th house, which was a house that was traditionally associated with fears, worries, anxieties, and sometimes it's also in modern astrology associated with the underworld, or those things that we struggle to be real or honest with ourselves about, or that are somewhat subversive or taboo. So with Mercury connecting to Venus in this place, from this place, the 8th house, there might be an opportunity to talk about things that are difficult with relative ease or with intelligence. And that's not an easy thing to do. You might be able to address rather deep or heavy things in relationships right now because of this nice sextile between Mercury and Venus. Venus is also in your workplace. The 10th house is the place of career. So you're also going to, you may notice that this communication dynamic is affecting things at work, or that there are issues basically surrounding communication dynamics in the workplace. You want to be very careful of sort of potentially, again, some subversive things from the 8th house. So you want to be careful of, like, flirting with your boss, or basically getting into gossip or drama or anything that might seem like harmless fun but could actually get somebody in trouble. To be a little bit careful about that. And you also have the potential for things for there to be good news or receiving good news, maybe a partner receiving good news, money in the eighth house that's connected to other people, and that could be indicated as well. Mercury and Venus getting together from Mercury's place in the eighth house could mean that there's some success or help that comes from another person sort of unexpectedly, and that might be a pleasant surprise. All right, so going forward from there, on September 8th, we're going to see Venus also, again, in your 10th house of career, making a square with Mars in Capricorn in your first house. Now, Mars is exalted in Capricorn. As a Capricorn, Mars is a great planet for you to hang out with because it's very hardworking and nose to the grindstone and very effective at getting things done. It's a super productive placement for Mars. And in your first house, it might mean that, you're working out a lot, or you're working on your health, or you are, there's just a wind at your back kind of feeling, wind in the sails, pushing you forward. However, Venus is also sort of asserting her position in the chart right now from what we call a superior square position. And that means that the need for diplomacy and grace and balance or harmony in relationships, maybe especially the workplace, is going to be a need making itself felt but might create a little bit of tension with a desire in you to move forward at all costs. So balancing some level of sensitivity to the needs of others, sensitivity to public reception or public image, sensitivity to dynamics or politics in the workplace. Venus Mars, of course, is also a combination that can indicate sexual tension. So sexual or creative tension maybe stemming from the workplace somehow, also possible. It could be a very productive transit, but you're going to have to make sure you take Venus's general concerns into account at this time around September 8th. And of course, this transit, you'll be feeling this transit from the beginning of the month onward, but it'll intensify around the 8th. Then on the 9th, there's a new moon, new moon, lunar, or what am I saying? New moon, I'm going to say eclipse. We just came out of eclipse season. No more eclipses, thank God. So let me put in, I don't know why suddenly my outer planets are not showing, so I'm going to put them back in. So you're going to notice that this new moon falls in your 9th house and opposes Neptune in your 3rd house. Now, the 9th house is a place of higher education, religion, spirituality, sometimes foreign places or universities. And so newness in that area, there's a theme of something maybe new opening up there, or some emphasis on those topics that the new moon is presenting. However, it's also happening in an opposition to Neptune in the 3rd house. So you want to be careful, because anytime Neptune is involved by an opposition, you essentially have the potential to not see things clearly, or to be deceived on some level, to be deluding oneself, or to be deluded by a situation, to be wearing rose-colored glasses. So you do want to be careful of all of those things right now. You have to excuse me, I'm having to have a little tea as I go, and my throat's a little scratchy. So Neptune in the 3rd house can also present you with a kind of cognitive dissonance. Like, do I really believe this? What do I really think? Doubt is sometimes a sacred and precious thing that we don't pay enough attention to. Doubts help us to hone in on the truth. And so your doubts right now may also be very important. However, at the same time, being overly critical or overly doubtful and not opening up to some need for faith, trust, hope could be equally dangerous. So you're balancing maybe some of the themes of the rational mind and your higher beliefs or your convictions right now. And you may be seeking some balance between faith and belief in altered states of consciousness, other realms, life beyond death, the soul, with also a critical thinking mind. On the other hand, travel could be implicated around this time. A sibling and your relationship with neighbors in the third house could be emphasized. And also generally the topic of learning. So that's the new moon coming through on September 9th. Then on September 12th, Venus in Scorpio in your 11th house is going to make an opposition to Uranus in Taurus in your 5th house. Now, first of all, generally speaking, for everybody, Venus opposite Uranus transits can indicate non-traditional, rebellious, or defiant dynamics in relationships. So that's sexuality, gender roles, if that's the need for greater experimentation in love or relationships, if it's the need for greater independence and freedom in relationships, or to experiment with style or art or aesthetic. But this is Venus, the goddess, opposite Uranus, the rebel, the innovator, but also the disruptor. So powerful transit, everyone will be experiencing it. It falls across your 11th and 5th house, which might mean that you are on the brink of exploring the groups that you belong to, whether that's spiritual or religious, or if it's professional or just circles of friends. Your social circles, the professional groups or organizations you belong to, or spiritual groups or cultural groups. You're on the brink of a time where you're going to be exploring them quite a bit, because Venus is about to retrograde in your 11th house next month. Sort of foreshadowing that, you could say, is this opposition to Uranus coming through on September 12th. Now, this is not the first time that you've been having Uranus in the mix this year in your 5th house. It entered in the middle of May into Taurus and moved into your 5th house. And Uranus and Taurus in the 5th is suggesting a kind of creative renaissance, or a moment where there is a need to be more creative, inventive, original, and outside of the box with regard to how you express yourself, or the kinds of artistic, creative, or personal things that you're involved with. 5th house is also about joy and pleasure, where we find a sense of being happy with what we're doing in our lives. So while there may be Venus retrograde in the 11th coming up, and then the opposition to Uranus in the 5th house in September, maybe there's also some questions about whether or not the groups that you are with, or different organizations or social circles, are reflecting your values, and whether there is really a place for you to stand out or be yourself within the groups or circles that you belong to. So you may be reconsidering your values right now and thinking about what you want to do with your future, and sort of having to make some interesting sort of social and personal adjustments. So at any rate, that transit again on September 12th. Then September 18th, Mars will get in on the action. Mars is going to be in Aquarius in the 2nd house of finances, and square to Uranus and Taurus in the 5th house. This could be a moment of real breakthrough for you regarding expenditures, budget, finances, money, business-related things, projects that you'd like to grow, hope to see some return from. And the idea of trying to push or force or kind of assert some energy to get something done, or to work past a limitation of some kind, is indicated. Mars is the god of war, Uranus the planet of breakthroughs, and again, rebelliousness and creativity and originality. So here we're seeing maybe something to do with both creativity and finances, or children and finances, but some urge to break through limitations, possibly some element of destructiveness or disruptiveness. So you do want to be careful about being overly impulsive or reckless around this time, potentially with regard to things like your the pursuit of pleasure, relationship with children, topic of money or finances, things like that. It can be a little bit of an impulsive transit. So yeah, you want to keep your eye on that. From this point, then we go to September 22nd into the 23rd. The sun will progress through the gateway of the autumn equinox. And whoops, this needs to be adjusted just a bit. There we go. Sun will progress through the gateway of the autumn equinox, and immediately it'll square Saturn in your first house. Now, the autumn equinox every year, just like the other equinox and the solstices, set the tone for the entire season to come, which is 3 signs or 90 days approximately. The fall equinox begins in your 10th house and is going to be focusing on career for the next, 30 days for sure, but really to come for the next whole 90 days. There's a lot of emphasis on career development. You might be needing to reflect upon things related to your career. The sun is going to square Saturn in your first house. There may be some challenges with authority figures in the workplace, the subject of responsibility, duties, hard work, labor, where are your commitments, either professionally or personally. And there may also be some sense of being at, really trying to figure out what you can and can't be committed to in regard to your professional trajectory. So that's autumn equinox around September 22nd to 23rd. Of course, this actually dovetails very nicely into the full moon. The full moon, of course, is the very next day, and that's taking place in Aries. I'll just go around the wheel so that I can get this back in the right position. So the full moon will fall in Aries in your 4th house of home and family, opposite Mercury and the sun in your 10th house of career, and both creating a T-square with the focal point being your ruling planet Saturn in the 1st house. You're at a crossroads. It's a big moment of trying to, Saturn in your 1st house for a couple of years means that the focus is on you and on being at a time where you're ready to, maybe just the phrase that I'm thinking of is you're ready to level up. It's like Saturn in your 1st house is a time of reckoning with health problems, with getting clear about who you are, what you want and don't want. It's about life direction. And it's also about maturing and becoming more capable, more masterful, more mature, more serious. With this full moon and Saturn as the focal point of a T-square in your 1st house, you're trying to figure out who you are, what you want, what you're doing in the midst of tension that's being placed between both career and home and family matters. So it's a pretty intense full moon to close out the month. So that's what I've got for you this month. To all my Capricorn friends out there, I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope you'll tell me what happens. Feel free to comment on the post in terms of how the month shakes out for you. I'd love to hear from you. Last but not least, I'll just point you to my website, where you can find more information about me and my work. You'll see my regular video blogs and posted horoscope columns. Check out my readings, upcoming courses, upcoming speakers, all different kinds of stuff that I'm into. So I hope to hear from you guys about how the month goes and look forward to seeing you back here again in October. Take care, guys.